One more important way in which interest negatively affects the real economy is the way in which it drives our unsustainable pursuit of growth. In order to talk about this point, I'd like to introduce a special guest. Felix Fuders is a professor of economics at the Universidad Austral de Chile, and also the president of the INWO, the Foundation for a Natural Economic Order, which is the main Gesellian organization in Germany. He's written extensively on Gesell in German, English, and Spanish, including his most recent book, which I mentioned previously, entitled How to Fulfill the UN Sustainability Goals, Rethinking the Role and Concept of Money in the Light of Sustainability, in which he argues that it's impossible to rein in our unsustainable pursuit of growth without reforming our monetary system along the lines proposed by Silvio Gesell. So I'm going to hand the floor over to Felix for a few minutes and let him introduce himself and talk a bit about the connection between our existing form of money and the so-called growth imperative. Felix?
So can you hear me? Yeah, thank you, Josh, for
Yes.
the introduction. I've prepared some slides. I'm going to talk about the growth imperative inherent in our financial system and the problems that arise hereof. And also we will see how financial crisis, as you already mentioned, inequality and even inflation and unemployment have to do with the unnatural design of our money. To understand this, we need to understand that money is the blood of our economy. Blood is a means of transportation. It transports nutrients and oxygens to the cells, and if the blood circulation gets stuck, the body gets ill. And the same is true with our economy. If the circulation of money gets stuck, so the economy will choke. The point is that the idea of money is to facilitate the exchange of goods and service. This is the first and primary sense of money. It has to circulate the economy to be able to fulfill this function. But there's another function usually attributed to money. This is money at the store of value. Well, and those two functions contradict themselves. It's obvious that money cannot circulate in the economy at the same time and at the same time be stored under the mattress. And in fact, because of this contradiction, all those problems just mentioned arise. Why do we not hoard, at least not major parts of our money, under the mattress? This is because we receive a reward, we receive interest. Interest is, as Keynes called it, a reward for parting with liquidity. To come back to the metaphor of money as the blood of our economy, interest would be the drug that maintains money circulating. So money comes with a kind of genetic flaw. It's always been a little bit sticky and does not really circulate as it should. And so we need this drug, the drug interest. And as with any drug that is taken for a long time, it has major side effects. And we can understand this taking into account that interest makes deposits grow. And they don't even grow only linear, but even exponentially. Because any bank account after some period of time will have doubled. And always if something doubles after a certain time, this is an exponential function. So $100 will be 200, then after next 15 years, 400, then 800, and so on. So we have a function that grows slowly at the beginning, but then ever faster. And even if the interest rate is really low, so the flat part of the curve would be longer, but then also with low interest rates, we'll get to the steep part fast. So this is a very unnatural growth, and it's difficult for us to understand it because nothing in nature grows exponentially forever. But this is here a good example to understand exponential growth is this example imagine a person like, for example, Jesus would have inherited 1 cent, just 1 cent from his father Joseph. And if he would have put this 1 cent in a bank account with 5% annual interest rate, how much would be the value on the bank account be today? The answer is that would be 400 billion planets Earth of fine gold. We can already imagine that this has to cause some crisis after some time. And since there's no interest paying without debt, the total debt of the economy has to grow in the likewise manner. So we have deposits grow and total debt of the economy grow. And interestingly, each dollar bill states this on each dollar bill we can read this. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Seems like it's not for buying like cars or meat or milk. It's to settle a debt. In German, there is a saying which represents this too very good. Die Wertpapiere des einen sind die Schulden des anderen. The financial assets of the one person are the debts of the other one. So if money supply and all deposits taken together is the money supply, if money supply grows exponentially, and here we see the money supply of the US, so the total debt has to grow in the likewise manner. And in fact, it does. Here we see the graph of the US total debt next to the US money supply. Well, we see they grow exponentially and they grow exactly in the same way. To put it in the words of Nobel Prize winner Frederick Soddy, money is a credit-debt relation from which none can effectually escape. And now we can understand where the crisis comes from. Well, if debts grow and grow, it will come a point in the economy that people will not be able to pay the debts or the interest burden that go along with that. Banks will start and granting loans to people with a subprime solvency, not because they're so greedy, but because they have to grant ever more loans because deposits also grow. And we can now understand also where inflation comes from. Well, if money supply grows faster than GDP, and this will happen after some point, so we will see inflation and also price bubbles. Price bubbles on real estates, for example, or stocks, gold or Bitcoin are nothing else than a partial inflation on investment markets. So I said we will talk about, we also understand where the obligation to grow come from. We see this in politics, left side politics, right side politics, everywhere in the world. The solution is the economy has to grow. But why is this? Well, this has also to do with the fact that money makes the money in deposits grows and also debt grows. So if a business has an ever growing debt burden, and if the owner of the business does not want to lose status quo, so what will he try to do? He will try to sell more. And even if he's lucky and does not have any debt, so he still has to grow. Why? Because his employees want a readjustment for inflation, which we just have seen has also to do with an ever-growing money supply. And even if he's lucky and his employees do not want any readjustment for inflation, he still has to grow for a third reason. And this is, in my opinion, the most important reason. Imagine you have a business and the money invested in your business does not yield a return which you would gain in the bank account. Would you keep on with your business? Probably not, right? You will shut it down. So interest is the opportunity cost of any productive investment. It is the benchmark. And if we do not earn at least what the bank would pay us for the same investment, doesn't make sense. So the interest rate sets the rhythm after which the economy has to dance. And it's not just a fetish, as some people believe. And we can now understand also where unemployment comes from. We now, from Arthur Okun, we have to grow like 3% to cut down unemployment 0.5%. This is known. We know this empirically, but we don't really understand why is this. But now we can understand it. Of course, if businesses cannot or do not manage to grow, well, what would be the second best alternative? If they do not want to lose status quo, well, they will cut costs. And how do we cut costs in the most effective way? Replacing human capital by machines. And this is why we see this dichotomy. we either grow, we see unemployment. And if the machine gets old, then it will also look for a new job. And we can understand also where the unemployment, where the other big problem comes from, the inequality, which is a problem everywhere in the world today. In the same time, or at least as much as in the time of Karl Marx. If we imagine, or if we see the deposits grow exponentially and debt grows in the likewise manner, and we put it in the same graph, so we have this debt mirroring the deposits, and the gap, this is the inequality. This is the wealth gap. And to use, we'll see a graph with real data from the US, we can clearly see how money supply and debt grow in a likewise manner and how the gap grows. And it's not just that inequality grows exponentially, it is an unjust inequality. Why is it unjust? Because as already Aristotle pointed out, money does not work, nor does it have offspring. So if someone earns interest, then this is not because of his own work, but of the work someone else has performed, usually the person who gets indebted and invests it productively. And in most cases, even at the risk of the person who gets indebted, not the risk of the person who gives the loan. Unfortunately, we don't really understand this in economics because we use money and capital as synonyms. So as if money was a production factor. But money does not work, nor does it have offspring. And you can really try it by yourself, put some bills together with red light or whatever, will not nothing will happen. They will not have offspring. So it's people who have to work, and if someone earns interest, it's because someone else had to earn it. The problem is, if we keep on growing, we will destroy the environment. Exponential growth is not possible on a finite planet, which already also Aristotle had pointed out. Anyone who believes, this is my favorite quote here, anyone who believes that exponential growth can go forever on a finite planet is either a madman or an economist. As Kenneth Boulding had pointed out in 73 in the US Congress. So first and second law of thermodynamics tell us we cannot produce something out of nothing, and everything we produce will end up as waste. So really, we shouldn't really wonder why we are destroying our environment. We can maybe produce things more efficiently, someone would say now. We can do this pan with less material, with less input. Yes, we can be more efficient and we can use green energy. But if we keep on growing, we will produce more and more of these pans. So we will, at the end up with more inputs and more destroying the environment. And this obligation to grow and the destruction of the environment is not even true for things that people produce, that we, the humans, produce. It's even true for nature. At least if the nature is important and economically important for humans. As Herman Daly once pointed out, anything in nature that does not reproduce itself at the rhythm of interest is in danger of extinction. And here I give over to Josh, who will keep on talking, expanding on this idea. Thank you.